ダニエルとユカ。
Hi everyone, I'm Daniel. Yuka is normally here, but today she's behind the camera, doing a bit of behind the scenes work. Today is something I've sort of been procrastinating about for a month and a half. Now, here we have the DJI FPV Combo, which is DJI's first entry into the FPV drone market. The best way of letting us know that you enjoy this content is by smashing that like button. It's super easy to do. Clickety click, clickety click. Hitting subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Looking through YouTube analytics, over 93% of you are not currently subscribed to our channel. It's so easy. Why not? Clickety click. Now, for those who don't know, FPV stands for First Person View. FPV drones have typically been restricted to a very hobbyist market. Very lightweight, very customizable, more utilized in kind of drone racing. FPV drones have been very complicated and not very user-friendly. What DJI is attempting to do with this is to make the very immersive first-person flight mode and make it a lot more accessible to the general consumer. This thing is a beast. It is aggressive in its color scheme, noise profile. It's super aggressive when it turns on, and it's really, really fast. So for the first part of this video, I'm going to do an unboxing of the DJI FPV Combo. I finally managed to get the DJI FPV FlyMore kit, which consists of 2 additional batteries and the charger. And I've also managed to get the DJI Motion Controller. The DJI Motion Controller is sort of a little bit like the Nintendo Wii remote. You can move it in 3D space, just hold it and you take off and fly, and the drone will bank to the left when you twist your hand like that. There must be some sort of gyroscope inside the motion controller, which translates to a more natural feeling of flight when you're strapped up in the FPV goggles, calmly navigating around the sky with your FPV drone and the motion controller. Just a bit of history. I've been flying drones since the Mavic Pro was released back in 2017. That was my first drone. I believe I have about 160 flights logged in my DJI profile. So I'm not exactly an amateur. I've been very interested in FPV drones since I first started seeing the kind of footage that you could get out of them and the crazy maneuverability that you can get out of them in the hands of an expert. But to be honest, it has been very intimidating. That is kind of why I procrastinated in making this video. I thought, okay, this is going to be a paradigm shift for me coming from the Mavic Pro to an FPV style drone. And then I also kind of didn't want to open it up until I had the complete set, because I kind of know that once I start flying, having just one battery is going to be an unsatisfying experience for me. This finally came in about 2 weeks ago. I also was really curious about the motion controller. Instead of making 3 separate videos, just make one video with the unboxing process of all of it. Let's get started. Here we have the FPV Combo, and inside the box there is DJI's goggles, which is kind of like a virtual reality headset. It looks very similar to the PlayStation VR headset, except more futuristic. Here we go. Holy shit, this looks badass. Wow. Okay, here we have the main event, the DJI FPV Drone. It's surprisingly heavier than I expected, but that's because it already has a battery loaded in. This looks like some kind of Star Wars, like an X-Wing or something like that. Like, it's very... It looks really cool. Now, next up, we have these super sick goggles. Wow. I feel like an X-Wing TIE fighter pilot. So yeah, it seems pretty comfortable even with glasses. So inside here we can see there's a warning saying don't look directly at the sunlight. That's very cool. And down here we have a micro SD card slot and a USB-C port. And these slidey toggles, they're for moving the width of the lenses inside. On the top here we have a little navigation nubbin, a record button, and back. When you're in here you can see an on-screen menu and you can navigate up and forward with that, and then the middle button is always back, and then the front button is record. And here there are some mask attachment things. One other thing is there is a power port here. This is a headphone socket and a power point. This little orange button looks to be like some kind of reset button. Finally, on this side there is an up and down button. So Jesus, it's quite a complicated headset to remember, but I'm sure after a couple of flights it'll become second nature. Okay, let's get back to the unboxing. Black foam instead of the traditional white foam. It's actually quite a nice contrast. Your first look at the drone is like this aggressive, dark packaging, and then it kind of softens up as you get down to the accessories. Here we have a pair of A propellers. There's 4 propellers. A propellers are these ones, and these ones are the B propellers. They seem to be color-coded with a little aggressive red for the A's and just black for the B's. So a pair of propellers set B. The new controller. Wow, this feels like a PlayStation 5 controller. It has this neat little flip-up antenna. Here we have the different modes. N is normal, S is sport mode, and M is manual mode. Now, I am 100% only going to be sticking to N normal mode and S mode. It's going to take quite a few flights until I feel comfortable switching to manual mode. I've sort of been practicing in the new DJI Virtual Flight app, which they've released for iOS. It allows you to practice with a virtual FPV drone around courses, getting used to the controls, because the controls are very different to traditional DJI Mavic flight mode. I've been practicing, and anytime I tried switching to manual mode in the Virtual Flight, trying to control it using the touch screen of the iPhone is not the optimal experience. It's difficult and very different. Anytime I switched to M mode, manual mode, I would just instantly crash, or the drone would just go all over the place, and it was very disorienting. Here is the controller. As I mentioned before, it's very similar to a DualSense controller. Just for comparison's sake, here is a PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, and here is the DJI FPV Remote Controller 2. Man, this text is really tiny. But this feels very heavy. It feels very solid, but that's probably because it has a whole bunch of extra nubbins and things on it, and probably the battery's a lot denser. Look, it even seems to have kind of like a cooling vent on the bottom of this controller. Whew, intense. So here we have the control sticks. Now you might be like, how the hell do you control this? But you can see etched on here there is little calibration marks showing you when it is fully centered. Something that's very different is that there's 2 modes. This is the standard mode where you go up and down, and then it will auto center back to the center. But once you switch to full manual mode, you actually need to peel off the back of these. Okay, there we go. My nail's not quite long enough. So you kind of peel this. Does it break off? There are 2 things that you can adjust with a little screwdriver to adjust the tension, and then what it does is it makes it so that then when this is down, then it will stay down. It won't auto flip back up. Same thing. Doing, 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 doing. So you kind of have to adjust both sides. See, so there's 2 adjustable ports on either side. It's another added level of complexity that is going to take me a bit of time to get used to compared to the very plug-and-play nature of the Mavic Pro. I haven't upgraded from the Mavic Pro because I was still pretty happy with the flight time, battery, etc. of the original Mavic Pro, so that's why I didn't upgrade. But this FPV was just something I've been wishing that DJI would enter the space. When they finally did, I was extremely happy. This button is the return to home button, or like pause and hover. There's a start and stop for manual mode. So anytime you're in manual mode and if things get a little bit hairy, then you can just instantly tap that and it will switch back to normal mode, which will control just like a normal Mavic Pro. Here we have the standard gimbal adjusting dial, and here we have the record and take a photo button. This is C1, which is a customizable button. You can customize that in the settings. And here we have the USB-C port for charging this, and in here is a handy dandy built-in thumbstick holder. So that's quite convenient because it's a bit of a hassle having non-removable thumbsticks for the Mavic Pro. So these just screw in here. They've got quite a tiny little thread. Hopefully DJI is gonna be selling replacement ones, because I can imagine that there's a lot of these little thumbsticks gonna get lost out in the field or on a beach. There we go. Boom, boom. Okay, seems very springy, that's for sure. Cool, so that is the controller. Now, what else is in this box? We have here the AC power adapter and a separate battery for the goggles. Now, so it's not a very portable drone compared to the Mavic Pro. That was something that I really loved about the Mavic Pro, is because the arms are all collapsible, then it basically folds up into the size of a water bottle, which is super convenient because I could basically fit the Mavic Pro in my little satchel. Now this, on the other hand, is, I don't know, I'm sort of looking at tailor-made drone backpack for this, but a lot of them are still not officially shipping until July, August, so I'll just play it by ear with that. So this must be just, oh yeah, these are just little foam things that are not really doing anything, just kind of protecting these in transit and shipping. This is the AC power adapter. Look at these battery terminals. Pretty much the most off-putting thing about traditional FPV drones is that they're very, very user unfriendly. The whole battery charging situation with recreational FPV drones is a bit of a nightmare. It's kind of like you need a minor electrical engineering degree in order to be able to safely charge and discharge the LiPo batteries for standard FPV drones. So it's very, very complicated. Like, you have to monitor the battery voltage, otherwise the batteries run a very serious risk of exploding. I kind of don't want my house to explode, so that's definitely a very major selling point on the FPV system by DJI, is that they've made this very user-friendly, because they don't want to get a bad reputation attached to someone's house catching fire because the LiPo batteries exploded because they weren't charged properly. This looks like a very heavy-duty power adapter. It's pretty bulky and heavy, but it's pretty similar to a standard power bank. Now, what we have here is goggles battery. Now, I've watched quite a few other YouTubers unpacking and test flying the DJI FPV, and something I noticed and was like a little bit, that's not quite as user-friendly as I hoped it would be, was that these actual goggles don't have any form of inbuilt battery in them. So that means that to fly the FPV drone, you have to have this on, and then you've got to use this and hold this little battery separately plugged in to the goggles. Just so this is a dead weight basically. There's no electrical power in this until you attach a separate battery. Something that's kind of cool that I've seen in some other FPV unboxings or demos is that people have modified these mask straps to actually hold the battery on the back of your head like this. That seems like a very functional way of holding this, so it's not like this big cable dangling down or like sitting in a pocket. This particular shirt I'm wearing today doesn't have a pocket, so I can't just slip it into my pocket like that. I think I need to look into maybe even getting a 3D printed battery holder for the back of the mask straps. Now, the final item in the box is this, which has a replacement top shell. This here. There are the 4 antennae for the goggles. There is the headband for the goggles. There is another cable and manuals. Right, here we have one USB-C to USB-A adapter. That's actually very handy. Here we have a USB Type-C to power plug. This is going to be for the goggles. In here, then this is going to attach to this battery here, like so. Boom. Here we have the very important mask strap. Sort of looks like a GIMP mask. Sex toy. This is a family-friendly channel. Sorry, children, as Uncle Roger would say. Now, this is an Australian power adapter, which is the same power plugs that we use here in Papua New Guinea and in New Zealand. So this is going to be for this power adapter. Now, something I really like about the DJI Power accessories is I actually really like this little Velcro branded DJI cable tie which is attached onto these cables, because like when you're trying to travel with a drone, like there's so many cables and it's a bit of a TSA nightmare, like going through border security or anything and like having to hand carry a drone and then having to pull out all of the cables because they're like, oh, this looks very suspicious on the scanning machine. It's very convenient that this little branded DJI Velcro cable tie is there to make everything nice and tidy when you're traveling. Now, this must be to the goggles antennae. Now, there are 4 of them. I don't think there's any A antenna, B antennae, sort of similar to the propellers. These are very interchangeable. Here we have the other 2. Just finger screw them on and there we go. Doesn't this look futuristic? Sort of makes you look like a bumblebee or the human fly, that classic horror movie. What's next in this box? Here we have another cable. Jeez, there's so many USB-C cables now. This is a USB-C to USB-A port, so it's a super speed cable. This might be for copying data off the SD card. Anyway, on here we have a replacement shell. This is to replace this kind of smoke grey shell. Now, I'm not really sure why DJI decided to go with a neon green. It's kind of a weird colour, especially seeing how the whole colour scheme for the rest of the FPV drone is smoke grey, aggressive red. I think this might have been better off if it was a bright red. I guess if you want to have contrast or make it a little bit more visible in the sky or something, then green should hopefully stand out. It's different, but it's not transparent. So that's what I think is very cool about this, is that you can see all the inner goodies inside. Final part of the unboxing process is there are, oh, looks like there's some replacement thumbsticks. Whoa, that's interesting. Because this came from Australia, there's Australian Civil Aviation Safety Authority advertising pamphlet. What? And there's also one for New Zealand. Fly the right way. Consider others. Be responsible. The Civil Aviation Authority of New Zealand. Consider others. Be responsible. Know the no-fly zones. Pre-flight checklist. training. Wow, big brother. Okay, now this is a very, very important tool. As I mentioned earlier, in order to switch into full manual mode, you need to open up the back of this and you need to adjust the screw in there. Now this is the tool that you need to be able to perform such a modification. And it looks like kind of a hex screw. Now this is a bit finicky to have to try and travel around with. I'm just making sure you've got the little stabby pokey tool. I really hope I don't lose it. We have a quick start guide 1.0. English warranty. Warranty service will be provided starting from the date of purchase. And then look at this disclaimer and safety guidelines. Before I tidy up, let's just open this final little packet. Here we have thumbsticks. Are they the same size? Yes, they are the same size. So I will keep those safely in the little pouch. The final thing I need to unbox here is the A propellers. As we can see, they are red. They seem really flimsy. A propellers go on here. So they lock on there. You push down and twist counterclockwise. Oh, no, it says clockwise. Anyway. So the red ones go in there, so that's good that they actually give you at least one spare set of props, because I have seen these and they seem very thin. So basically hitting any kind of foliage or tree or branch or anything is going to chip the propellers. It's not recommended to fly with slightly damaged props. Here's an A and here's a B. That's how they differentiated them. The B ones don't have this little red circle on it. Yeah, come on, where is it? Push down and twist. There. Oh baby, there we go. This is an aggressive looking beast. So I'll just peel off these little stickers. Here we have the USB-C port and another space for a micro SD-XC card. Something that's very cool about this is that there are two SD cards running in tandem. All footage that you're recording records from the SD card located on the goggles, and then there's also another SD card which is recording on the drone. That means that if you lose your drone or it crashes in water or something and it's unrecoverable, then you still have footage of where the drone crashed and your current flight and any other flights that you have on the SD card, which is saved on the SD card in the goggles. So that's quite a good redundancy plan. I'm going to tidy this up a little bit. Talk amongst yourselves. And we're back. Next up, we have the DJI FPV FlyMore kit. The FlyMore kit consists of a triple bank charger and also 2 additional batteries for the FPV drone. Let's get started with this unboxing. Now, once I actually pair the FPV drone with my DJI app, then I'm gonna probably have to look into getting the DJI Care Refresh, because this is an expensive piece of tech. It's kind of a risky piece of tech, and it is obviously at high risk of having damage occur to it. Here we have the FlyMore kit. Now this is quite interesting. It has 3 charging ports here for 3 batteries. So these batteries all just slot on like this. Boom, 1, boom, 2, boom, 3. We're hoping to go back to Japan later this year. We're going to be staying kind of countryside. I kind of wanted to take a drone. Ideally, I wanted to take the FPV drone because it's the newest drone I have and it has the highest resolution camera. I sort of need to work out the logistics of carrying it because we'll probably be in Japan for 3 to 4 months.
PS5 too, right?
Yep, I do want to take my PS5.
Oh, you can carry that.
I will carry it in my bag, like a boss. This irritates me. There is a spelling mistake on the back of here. It says the DJI FPV Battery Charring Hub instead of Charging Hub. Failed, DJI. A little bit of proofreading will do wonders. We have a bit of a charging rat's nest. Here is the official charging adapter, and this is going to plug into here, and it's going to smart charge these batteries in sequence. So as you can see, it's going to do this one first because this is the most full battery, then it will sequentially step through to the other batteries here. Yeah. Okay, so I can have 3 batteries sequentially charging. I had to also buy 2 SD cards that were high speed enough. This is the SanDisk Extreme Pro 128GB micro SD XC card with 170 megabytes a second of read and 90 megabytes a second of write, which is sufficient for 4K recording for a drone. So yeah, that's not a very exciting unboxing, so I will move on to the next little thing, which is the final piece of this complicated puzzle, the DJI Motion Controller. Let's get started. Dun, 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 dun. Make sure I don't stab myself. Okay, oh no, there's a sticky label here. A lot of paperwork. Here we have it. It has a trigger for the acceleration. It has down here a USB-C charging port. Here we have the brake button, which is a nice big textured button. It's ribbed for everyone's pleasure. Sorry, children. Here we have a lock button, and here we have, it has an M on it, so I don't know if that's like a mode change button. I will need to read the instructions. And here on the left hand side we have a tilt of the gimbal, so you can control the tilt of the gimbal, and if anything happens while you're controlling the drone like this, then the biggest button is the brake, so it will just instantly pause the drone and it will hover in place. This button here must be a record button, and this lock button, I believe it locks it in a particular speed. And we have here the power button. Oh, we have power. Standard DJI power on sound. I'm going to turn that off. And here we have a user guide for the DJI Motion Controller. Oh, do. Check battery one, blah blah blah. Check battery level, press once, and make sure all devices are powered on before linking. This is connect the USB-C port of the goggles to the mobile device. Here. Follow the prompts to activate the motion controller. This is a little more complicated than I expected. That is the end of the unboxing. The next step is I'm going to have to charge stuff up. I'm going to try and pair it with my iPhone, and I'm going to activate things and update firmware, which I've heard takes a little bit of time. Fingers crossed it will not be crazy long. Now, one other thing I forgot to mention is there is this little hand strap lanyard thing. So this ties on to here. I will show you how to do that. You thread it through here and poke it through there. Boom. One hand strap efficiently attached to this. So now you can just have it like this and just hold it, and then you're not going to accidentally drop it, or if it swings, which is a little bit dangerous, but in a pinch it will stop it crashing to the ground, and possibly your drone crashing as a side effect of that. Normally when DJI releases drones, they have just the basic drone by itself, and then they have a FlyMore combo, which always includes a carrying case, extra batteries, charging hub. In this case, DJI called it the FPV combo, and then they released a separate FlyMore kit. It's not really a full super combo. So really, to get the super combo, you have to buy the FPV combo and the FlyMore kit and the motion controller for the full experience. All of this stuff kind of adds up. This motion controller is about 200 Australian dollars. This FlyMore kit is about 400 Australian dollars because it has 2 batteries, and the batteries are quite expensive. I believe that's because the smart charging technology that they're using is proprietary technology. I guess that's kind of what you're paying for. You're paying for peace of mind that the lithium battery is not going to explode and burn down your house, which peace of mind is priceless. And finally, the DJI FPV combo, consisting of the controller 2.0, the goggles 2.0, and the FPV drone. I think the total price I paid was approximately 2,000 Australian dollars. There's a lot of tech in the FPV drones, so there's a lot of obstacle sensors. This is actually using DJI's latest OcuSync 3.0 technology. So in the goggles, when you're actually flying, you will get notified if there's any aircraft in the area, all of the warnings, proximity things close to you. Something that's different also is that this is very well equipped for flying at night. Now on the back here, you'll see these LED strips here. In the app, you can actually customize these, sort of like an RGB LED strip, like a lot of people have behind their TVs. You can customize the colors that it flashes, the sequence, etc. There's 4 of them, and they're actually really, really bright from other people's videos that I've seen. On the front here, we have some flashing lights. We have front avoidance sensors. We have lower avoidance sensors. We have other avoidance sensors here. Okay, here we go. This comes off like this, and we can see this beautiful, I don't know if you can see that, it's got a sticker on it, so I'm going to peel this off. Delicate, delicate. Boom. And there you can see 4K 60p. I like 4K 60p. Sick. We'll get this set up here. We'll get SD card. Now these micro SD cards are so freaking tiny. One SD card is going to go into this little slot here. Okay, it goes label facing up. Click it in. Boom. This is more just to protect it and transport. So if you don't take this off, you'll get a reflective sheen off this gimbal cover. Just like the traditional Mavic Pro, you need to remove this gimbal cover here when you're actually flying. This is not a multi-directional gimbal. It only goes up and down, not side to side. I guess they did that because the controller is already pretty complicated. With the additional maneuverability of the FPV drone, like having to micromanage the left and right tilt of the camera gimbal would be like trying to pat your head and rub your stomach and do something else at the same time. I'm pretty coordinated, so I can pat my head and rub my tummy at the same time, but some people can't, so I probably couldn't do that and then play the drums. Doing 3 things at once is kind of pushing people's limits. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, seeing what is inside the box of the DJI FPV FlyMore kit, the DJI FPV combo, and the DJI Motion Controller. If you have any feedback, questions, or suggestions for future content, then please feel free to leave a comment down below, and we will respond as quickly as possible. If you've enjoyed this video, then please consider smashing that like button. It really helps us out so much in getting our YouTube channel getting discovered, and also our videos getting a lot more traction on YouTube's recommended page through the YouTube algorithm. See you next time. This has been Daniel. Bye bye.